Welcome back to Strange Stories with the Seeker and the Skeptic. Today it is just the skeptic and me. We don't have a guest today. We're just going to kind of talk about some of the things that have been going on with us, some of the things that we're thinking about. So, Jonathan, what's been going on with us?
So yeah, we've been doing a lot of stuff, both podcast wise and otherwise over the past several months. Brittany has published her first novel, first in a series of three, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. We are about to make a big move, very very much in a literal way. We're going from Roanoke, Virginia, to Central New York. In efforts to reduce our cost of living a little bit, have some different experiences, and give us both more time to do things like writing and editing and things like that.
Yes, that is the big news is we are moving. Um,
To the
so
frigid north.
uh-huh, he's my southern man is a little nervous about this. But what I keep telling him is that it has not been terrible the last couple of winters. I think any of our CNY listeners can agree to that. However, as we're recording this, the last couple of days have been quite snowy, and we are heading back north to celebrate Easter with my family, but also, start the process of moving and this weekend. So we're hoping by the time we get on the road, it will be much warmer and snow will be melting.
It better be gone. It's gonna be April. April. Come on, people. April.
So part of the reason, I mean, obviously we're telling you about what's going on with us and what we're up to, but part of the reason we're talking about this today is there's a little bit of a strange story attached with how we made this decision. So I'm going to back up even further. And I believe I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I don't expect you guys to listen to every single episode and remember every single thing that we say. So I'm going to tell the story again. But 2 years ago, actually, it's like 2 years ago, like almost right now, I was in Myrtle Beach with my family on a family trip. And this was, about a year after I had left my marriage. Um, And on the way home from Myrtle Beach, I was talking to my mom, and I don't know what possessed me to say this to her. But it just felt like truth in that moment. So I said to my mom, I don't know if I'm going to be living in New York for the rest of my life. And she's like, you won't? Like, where would you live? And I said to her, I don't know. Virginia seems nice. And this was before Jonathan and I knew each other. And we might have known each other like on the periphery from DDPY, Positively Unstoppable Challenge, but we weren't talking or anything like that. I don't think I knew, if I knew of him, I didn't know he was from Virginia or anything like that. So then 2 months later, Jonathan and I start talking. He's from Virginia, and you guys know how that story goes. Ended up moving here, but that definitely to me was like a download of guidance of I'm just, you know, spirit, my higher self, whatever you think it is. I kind of just think of it as my higher self. Um, was preparing me that I would be making a big move because up until that point, I really hadn't considered that too much. That I would be I'd lived in my hometown my entire life. Um, it wasn't really something on my radar, but just in that moment, I was like, I think I will be moving at some point. So that happened in Myrtle Beach. So fast forward to this January, Jonathan and I went on a trip to Myrtle Beach. And on the way home from Myrtle Beach, I had another download that was it's time to move back to New York. And the reason why is, like Jonathan said, it's a financial move for us. Plus, I do miss my family. I miss my friends there. Do I think that we'll be in New York for the rest of our lives? Probably not. It depends on how Jonathan handles the winter. But on the way home, it was just as clear as day of like, here's the plan, and here's how you both get to focus on the things that you want to focus on, how you reduce your cost of living. This is what is supposed to happen. So this happens on the drive home, but Jonathan was not feeling well. So I'm like, I can't like drop this bomb on him when he's not feeling well. Like he had a stomach bug. And so I didn't say anything. And that night, like after we got home, I was in my office and I was like thinking about it. And actually, I was watching like an online tarot reading, and the person was talking about moving in May. And all of a sudden, I felt like my hair got pulled. And I was like, what the hell? So to me, it was, I don't know who that was or what that was, but it was like, again, it was a confirmation of like, you need to talk to him about this.
Well, I
So,
can tell you it was not me. At that point, I think I was sitting on the couch hallucinating. That was the worst stomach bug I've ever experienced. I had hallucinatory thoughts for like 48 hours
yeah,
those days. It was really crazy.
yeah, it was not good. Um, so I did wait until the next day. He was still not in good shape, and I was not in good shape either. I started getting sick as well. But it just got to the point where I was like, I can't just keep this. It just was like in my brain and wouldn't stop. And I couldn't, like that night, I couldn't sleep because I kept thinking about it, but I was like, I can't say anything because he's sick. So yeah, while Jonathan was in a hallucinatory state, I dropped this bomb on him that I think we should move to New York, and he agreed. So that is the story of how we are planning on moving back. Or all how I'm moving back. Jonathan will be moving there for the first time to
Yeah,
New York.
I've been in Virginia for 18 years.
Yeah.
That's actually not the entirety of it. There is another thing that's kind of interesting about it is the lease on this place. We're renting this house, and the lease on this place was supposed to be up at the end of August. So we thought we were going to be stuck here till, just before September. And that video she had watched had talked about people moving in May.
Yeah.
Well, I called my landlord, and I did not expect to have a positive conversation about this. But I figure that you don't, every question you don't ask is a no, but maybe. And I explained the situation of needing to, step out of the lease. And I also told the guy, hey, I know that you can charge a lot more for this place monthly than what you've been charging me because I've been with you for a while. How about, letting me out at the end of May? And the guy said, sure, which I did not expect. We're not getting hung on multiple months worth of rent going forward, which most landlords would definitely do that. At least that's been my experience of years and years of renting from people and companies both. And so we get to leave when we need to leave, and we're not going to have to deal with the hassle of, somebody feeling like we owe them something.
Yeah.
So maybe the strangest story I've told in this podcast is a positive landlord situation, but honestly, it's actually been a very good situation with that company. I have no complaints about them.
Yeah. They've been good to us and helpful. So we definitely appreciate that. But yeah, that was definitely strange. That was like, yeah, he said, I'm watching the tarot video and it's like, you'll be moving in May. And
And we
that's like,
are.
and we are. You also, months before this, might have had some glimpses into this. So tell us about that.
Well, so in October through December, Well, to take a step back, there's an esoterica podcast called Vase, Vayse. I've mentioned it a couple of times through different episodes of this, and I'm on their Discord, which you can get through a Ko-fi donation monthly. It's super worth it. Really, really good community in that Discord. I've made a lot of friends. It's been really cool. Um, Shout out to any of those folks if they happen to listen. I think a few of them do listen to the podcast. So through those months, they did a little bit of an experiment. I'm not going to go deep into it because their experiment. It's not my experiment, but I participated and it dealt with dreams and what dreams are and can they influence you? Can you influence them? What, you know, where can you go with dreams? Which has always been an interest of mine. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at a copy of the Eric Wargo Dream Book that I will be starting very soon. I'm very excited about. Got it for Christmas. Um, dreams are super interesting to me. They've played big role in my life in multiple parts of my life. And through that dream experiment with those guys, um, I had a series of very narrative dreams that kind of have two results for me. One of which is actually was the beginning of and the direction of the novel that I'm currently writing, and I'm about 20,000 words into right now. Um, and I think that if I had not done that, that novel would not be happening for sure. Um, and then I mean I'm sure I'd be writing something right now, but it wouldn't be that. But also a recurring theme throughout these dreams was a house that played a role in the plotting of it in multiple ways, and it was a mixture of two different houses. One of which is very real, and one of which I've experienced in dreams throughout the past 25 years. So I don't know if I've mentioned it in the podcast at some point or not, but I'll explain that dream house at some point in the future. But the real house is half that dream house from long ago and half Brittany's grandmother's house in Oswego, which is the house that we are now going to be moving into. And so I think it's kind of interesting that, in at least a few of those dreams, we were living there. In other dreams, we were investigating it for different reasons. But it would definitely had real physical hallmarks of that place.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think that we've talked about this before, but it's like thinking about our past, and like, is fate a real thing? Is destiny a real thing? I don't know the answer to that, but I do feel like sometimes there's like plot points that are kind of maybe options. Maybe that's how I want to think about it, is like this is an option for us and we were both presented with the option. I think that we could have both decided no, that wasn't the right option for us and continued on this timeline. Yeah, and maybe there is. That's something that we're going to talk about more in a future episode, is timelines and all of that jazz. It's something we've been exploring a little bit, but maybe there is a version of us who decided, nope, we're going to stay in Virginia and stay on this timeline. But we were both kind of guided to this, and I think it's pretty cool. I think for me, one of the things that is just like the symmetry of it. Um, both times I'm kind of having these downloads or these revelations about moving um on the way back from Myrtle Beach. And I don't know much about, I believe it's called astrocartography. And it's basically, you know, again, I know very little about this, but what I understand is it's like based on like your birth chart, like there's certain places that are like geographic locations that are kind of like aligned for you, or there's places that really aren't good for you, like the energy would not be good for you to like be there or live there or whatever. And I feel like one of the more aligned places for me is Myrtle Beach. Whenever I go there, it's so like rejuvenating for me, and I think just being near the ocean in general is that for me. I'm a very watery water sign. So I am happy to be moving back to the place where we're very close. We're on the shores of Lake Ontario, so that will be nice to be near that big body of water again. But I think Myrtle Beach is one of those places for me where it's just like that's where some of my healing happens. And that's where maybe I'm open for downloads from the universe. I don't know. But astrocartography is something that's interesting, and definitely I would like to learn more about it and even like have my chart read and just see what that's all about someday.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find someone who's competent in that kind of stuff to do something like that for you. Maybe even we can get them on the podcast. That'd be interesting too.
That would be very cool. So if anybody knows anything about that, or if you've had your chart read, leave us a message, let us know, because that's something I'm interested in for sure.
I had a feeling that we would end up at least seriously considering doing this. I mean, in any situation with, I mean, we we're trying to be able to have time to do more like creative type things. We were both working on novels and stuff. I'm about to start researching a nonfiction book as well. Um, and with the cost of living being what it is throughout the United States, if you have the opportunity to, to pay someone you trust less than what market is, you have to at least consider it to begin with. But also, you have so many friends and family there, lots of places where we can go hiking and do different, different things. I've explored the Roanoke, Virginia area to the point of, I know everything here, and it will be cool to have new experiences in different places. So,
Yeah.
we have a lot to look forward to, um, even if it is way too cold for part of the year. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your novel and how to get it?
All right. So, my book is called Maiden's Light. It is book one of the Lunar Soul Cycle, and you can get it on currently right now, just Amazon. I'm hoping to expand paperback at some point, but I have not figured out the Ingram Spark quagmire. So, right now it's just Amazon. Um, but this book is what I would call new adult, which I know a lot of people are not familiar with that category. To me, new adult is like college age. It does take place at a university, and it is about a girl who grew up in foster care. Her mom disappeared on her when she was little, never knew her dad. Right before she was ready to enter college, she basically finds her dad. And so decides that she's gonna move to, the town that her dad's from, go to college there, and weird things just start happening. And she has a secret that she doesn't share with anybody. And her secret is she can see ghosts. And she has two that follow her around. So the story is really about like how the past intersects with the present and kind of unraveling some of the mysteries about the ghosts that have been following her around for her entire life and what that's all about. So if you like magic and mystery and ghosts and witches, then this might be a book that you like. And right now, so that's out, and right now I am in the editing process. Actually, Jonathan is editing for me the second novel in the series. And if you didn't know, Jonathan is a freelance editor. So if you need anything edited, contact him. He's wonderful. He edited. I had Maiden's Light edited before him. He kind of did a final like proofread for me. Um, but I wrote another book in November. I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but this is more of a personal development book. It's called Align and Bloom. And it's my brand of how I do emotional and spiritual healing work. So I talk a lot about like shadow work and internal family systems and vibrational alignment and that kind of thing. But he edited all of that for me. So that came out in November. That's also available on Amazon. So yeah, we um Jonathan and I kind of connected over books. That was like our first conversation was about books. We both have been huge readers for our entire lives, and we've both wanted to write for a very long time. Before I met him, I had written the first drafts of all three of these books that we're talking about. So Maiden's Light, the second book that's being edited right now, and A Line in Bloom. I just didn't know how to finish them, or I don't know if, I guess maybe finish them isn't the right word, but like I didn't have the confidence to put them out there into the world. So I had to do my own internal work to get myself ready to be vulnerable and put those books out. And
And they're
sometimes,
very good.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, that is what I've been working on. And well, as soon as these edits are done for book two, I will be getting ready to write the third book in the trilogy. So I'm excited about that. I've been in the editing phase for a very long time. And if you're a writer, you'll understand this, but it's kind of exciting to start a new project. Like I don't mind editing, but after a while, you're just like, okay, I'm ready for this to be done and to work on something new. So I'm excited to start drafting again. What about your book, Jonathan? Tell them about your book a little bit.
Well, I don't know that I'm to a point of really talking about what it is about or was in it. Like I said, I'm about 20,000 words into it. Who knows how long it's going to be. It's coming along fairly quickly. I would say that my process is um a little on the specific side, and also I'm wrapping up um what's been I don't know how to explain the experience that I have had with my current gig. But it has been a little bit of an energy suck dealing with that. Um, it's become a cliche that people don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad managers, and this is one of those cases where that is extremely true. It's the company is fine, the work is fine, the job is fine, but they changed managers on me about four months ago, and it became unworkable. And so here we are. But this new situation with being in a new place is allowing us to breathe some and to take some time to be more creative, and I feel like I'm going to be able to ramp up my writing speed quite a lot mid-May on because everybody knows how much of a chore moving can be because you got to clean everything, and then you got to pack everything and decide what you don't want to keep, and then do the actual moving, and then clean everything again, and then unpack and get everything ready in your new home. And so, we're talking, probably late May, but after that, I feel like we're going to be off and running on the writing thing. Um, After I get done with Brittany's second book, I will be looking for more things to edit. So if anybody has got a project they want to work on, my rates are pretty reasonable compared to what I'm seeing other freelancers. So yeah,
Yeah.
hit me up.
Yeah, you just did you just edited a book. Are you allowed to talk about that?
I did edit a nonfiction book that is planted firmly in New Thought. I would say the title and the release have not been announced yet, so I really can't go into who and what it is. But once it comes out, hopefully the author will hopefully he'll come on and do an episode with us because he's a super interesting guy, and talk about his book, talk about his beliefs. But um, I'll also mention whenever it comes out, I'll also mention what it is because I think there's some valuable material in there that can help you help you change your mind, which is a good thing. We all should be trying to deprogram the bad and reprogram the good. This human brain is a computer.
Absolutely.
I kind of have come up with um, a specific way that is working well for me. I would classify this novel as being somewhat of a channeled work anyway. Um, Part of it being the majority of it having, you know, the majority of the idea having come from that dream sequence over the course of a couple months, and then also just the things that I'm doing to get into a headspace to write. For me, for one thing, is I have to be physically tired. I walk between 4 and 6 miles a day every single day, no matter what else I do. I also do DDPY, which is Diamond Dallas Page Yoga. Also hit the gym for weights 3 to 4 times a week, depending on what week it is and how we're both feeling, and you know all that other good stuff. And so, I've got a pretty solid 3 to 4 hours a day that I'm devoting to physical fitness, which is exhausting, purposefully exhausting. And I'll also mention that in the past 3 years, I have lost 180 pounds. So, there's a reason for me being like this. It's some kind of weird obsession. I used to weigh 500 pounds, and I want to never be in that place again. So here we are. But a side effect of that is through all this walking and all this other stuff, it allows my brain to get into a place that I can be creative, and I can go through and come up with these ideas wherever they're coming from, and find a way to translate them to a novel. And so it usually is more towards the evening time, sometimes later at night. And then I have a specific tarot deck that I like a lot that Brittany got me a couple months ago that I'll do a 3 card reading on and look at the meaning of the cards based on the book that came with that deck. Which it's actually right here beside me. It is the Shadow Journey Tarot by J. Edward and Heather Neal. The art on it is really, really good, really interesting. Um, Really well thought out booklet with it as well that gives you, just it's just another insight thing, just like anything else. So I did a 3 card reading on that, and then also recently I picked up the Supra Oracle deck, which is based on Jungian thought and research. And so I'll do a card from that as well. And then I will turn on some music. And what I've been doing for this book, and this is actually going to be an experiment that I do within myself over what I hope to be multiple novels, is I'm going to pick a, a music artist that says something to me and just listen to their music while I write a specific thing. And for this novel, I have chosen Thelonious Monk. It's a old jazz musician and conductor that was, I think, a genius. He was just, you can't beat that guy for jazz. For me, at least, it's small chamber, mostly piano driven. His stuff never has lyrics, so there's no distraction on that. There, I'm not sure that I would necessarily would be distracted. I know that some people want words when they're writing. Some people want complete silence and couldn't handle any noise at all. Everybody's different. So, but for me, noise is good, music is good, and this is working out well for me. And so I will go through all that process and get that started, and then I'll start writing.
So that's interesting. This is the first time you've said out loud to me, at least, that you have to be physically tired. Like I knew you were doing it late at night, but I didn't know it was because you needed to be physically tired. And I think I'm the exact opposite. Like I cannot be if I'm physically tired, my brain is tired too, and nothing's coming to me. But that's very interesting. Um, and I do think your process works for you. You know, what you've let me read so far is very good. I'm very interested in reading more of the story and seeing where it goes, but it's working, so keep doing it.
I'm definitely going to continue to try. It's definitely in a modern urban fantasy. It definitely incorporates a lot of different aspects of esoterica. It is definitely not any one given thing for sure. And I think I see some twists coming that I think are not going to be particularly obvious. That once they're there, I think they're going to be pretty good. I'm discovering this thing as I write it. So, it's been an interesting process for me in that context as well.
Yeah, our processes are so different. Like he said, he has to be tired, I have to be energized and awake. So probably like my best writing happens more in the morning than it does in the evening. And he's a pantser, so he's just writing it as it comes. And I am definitely a plotter. So I spend months. I mean, my Maiden's Light, that wasn't even months because I didn't know how to write a story. I didn't understand story structure. I just had these ideas that kept coming to me. And so I was like plotting and planning for years, like from 2000, it was either 2018 or 2019, I can't remember. Um, the original idea came to me as a download again on a family trip, not to Myrtle Beach this time. This one was in Maine, but I kept seeing repeating eights everywhere. And at one time I saw it on a mailbox and I just had the download of kind of a huge part of the story and the character arc and was like, oh wow. And so I started just kind of like brainstorming and creating this world and creating these characters. And it took me until we were in lockdown for the pandemic before I had time. And I was like, you know what? Why not just really try to give a lot of my energy to this? And so then I started watching authors talk about, storycraft and writing craft on YouTube, and I started reading books, and Save the Cat writes a novel. That book is what did it for me. That's what clicked everything in, and I could take these years worth of ideas that I had been cultivating and plop them into a coherent narrative. So if there's any aspiring writers out there, I highly recommend that book by Jessica Brody. That really helped me a lot. Um, but I love that you're using tarot and oracle decks to kind of help start that channel. And I have done that as well. When I get stuck with something, I will pull out decks that I feel called to. One that I really like is an archetype deck, and that has helped me kind of just like flesh out different aspects or themes for the story. So I love using that as a tool.
Yeah, hopefully, spelling this all out to everybody is not going to stop that from working for me anymore. So we'll see what
It will
happens going
not.
forward.
Oh my
See what's going on.
goodness.
Well, everybody, if you want to talk with us, reach out. We'd love to have you on the show. Even if you've already been on, if you've got more things to talk about, if you got more things you experienced or just have questions about, we'd love to have conversations about this stuff. Anything weird off the wall, anything different, anything that you feel like can't be explained properly, any of that stuff, reach out.
Yes, definitely. We are definitely looking to book some more interviews. Um we have a couple on the calendar. One that I'm pretty excited about, somebody who's been in um paranormal investigation field for a very long time and is a medium. So we're looking forward to that conversation. And even if you have a strange story, we did this at Halloween, but I'm going to just open this up that we could do this again. If you have a strange story and you don't really want to come on the podcast, but you want us to talk about it, send it to us in an email.
Seeker and skeptic at gmail.com.
Yeah, so just email us at seekerandskeptic@gmail.com and tell us your story. And like I said, if you don't want to talk about it, but you want us to talk about it, we'd be happy to do that. I think that's kind of fun too.
For sure.
Yeah, so thanks for listening to our life updates. Um, and we will talk to you guys again soon. Thank you so much for being here. If you have a strange story you want to share with us, email us at seekerandskeptic@gmail.com. We look forward to talking to you soon.